been with us for years and years and years. And thank you for bringing new faces too. Just tremendous to see you all. Thank you. And forgive my voice. I live in seat 21A on an aeroplane somewhere. And apparently this is what you get. Before I go back to our topic today, I want to share a few pieces of good news. Some of you were asking about our Hurricane Florence work, and you know we do go out after every hurricane on that coast. And I want to just show you a tiny clip of some of our work in the flood after Florence. People can pack their television sets and their God knows what into the van and move out and leave these dear souls behind. It's totally baffling, but they always do it. They always will. And I told somebody, we made 1,000 calls, over 1,000 calls, I think, before this hit, because we knew it was coming that way, to say to people, because we know a lot of these people in that area, that's where we work, to say, please, take that dog off the chain, put that dog inside, take that dog with you. And so many did, and so many didn't. Thursday, you may have seen that we broke a new case about HemoPet. This is one of those greyhound places. You know, we busted one in Texas. This one is in California in Orange County. About 200 greyhounds kept in individual cages, sometimes 23 hours a day or more, for 18 months or so, just so they can have their blood drawn over and over and over again at this, what I think is a scam adoption agency, because they don't adopt the animals out for sometimes 2 or 3 years, and they're used for blood all that time without any exercise to speak of, and often afraid of their cage mates being beaten up by other dogs and so on in this noisy facility. HemoPet is fighting back, and if you go to our website, I don't have it with me, I'm not going to show it tonight, not experimentation per se, but then again it is. All these greyhounds who've gone from the frying pan to the fire, they came out of the greyhound racing industry, not known for its great kindnesses, and they're now in this dump in Orange County. You know, if you need blood for a veterinary office for a transfusion, there are people who have adopted big veined dogs like greyhounds who will gladly bring them in, and this happens all over the world, and allow you to take blood and give them a treat afterwards and tell them they're good, and let them go home again to the couch or the bed. So there is no excuse for HemoPet, and I ask you please, not only go to our website, look at the video, but also ask your veterinarian, where do you get your blood if you need a transfusion? And tell them, please, I don't want to patronize you unless you get your blood from a proper donor who lives in a home, not in a cage. So please, will you all do that?
Yeah.
Yes. PETA, as you know, works on pretty much every angle of animal abuse that we can think of, from the smallest to the biggest animals. But not all of it is well known. And part of what isn't well known for us is child's education. So we have a program called Teach Kind. And this reaches over 10 million students a year. It's in schools all over North America, and we have versions of it in other countries as well. So right after the school shooting in Parkland, Florida, we got in touch with the school district there, and we offered to set up assistance programs using our Teach Kind materials. And I'm happy to say that they accepted our offer. And so this past month, we presented our very first session of Teach Kind to 130 counselors and their staff in the Parkland, Florida area. What it does is it covers the importance of humane education as a fundamental part of teaching kids not to bully and not to be violent to others. Anybody of any kind, it doesn't matter if it's a religious or a nationality or a gender or a species thing, learning to respect is the integral part of Teach Kind. The district has ordered 1,000 of our teaching kits and is partnering with us to teach sensitivity and to fight all kinds of prejudice, something, of course, that benefits everybody, and I'm extremely happy about that. Let me just touch on a few important victories for animals I think you know about. First, you know that Berkeley and San Francisco passed this wonderful law that you cannot sell or manufacture fur in the entire city limits. And taking a leaf out of those books, then Los Angeles passed its own law that you can't manufacture or sell any fur in LA's city limits, and that is the largest city in the world, but not the last, to pass this kind of law. Our members at PETA have been very busy with that campaign, and we want to thank everybody who helped push it across the finish line. But there's also, of course, Governor Brown signed the California Cruelty-Free Cosmetics Act, which PCRM had brought about and we supported, and that makes California the first state in the United States to ban all animal-tested cosmetics. So, we're up to all sorts of hijinks, but as Alex mentioned, getting back to our topic at hand, that it really truly is fantastic when you can make a single tweet of maybe a video, like one of the ones you saw, or one of the ones we didn't show you that are ghastly, and it reaches millions of people in just a matter of seconds. It's just phenomenal. So back when we started, the internet, let alone Twitter, didn't exist, and it wasn't something I think we could ever have imagined would exist. It was just not there. It was a science fiction thing that would never happen. So in 1980, when we started, we were a little low tech. I hid in a cardboard box. And we didn't have a can on a string, but we had something near like that. So while one of us was inside the lab and I was out, we had Radio Shack walkie-talkies, which, if you ever know anything about them, sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't work. But somehow or the other, we used that technology, or lack thereof, to make great strides for animals. We made history back in 1980 and 81, and we're still making it today. That first case, as you probably know, was the Silver Spring Monkeys case, which of course is dear to my heart. I will never forget that. It took place in Silver Spring, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. And what they did is they had monkeys kept in a lab that was a shed. The experimenter, what he would do was paralyze the monkeys' arms, their limbs, by cutting into their spines so that they couldn't feel what was going on. And then he would force them to move their arms through electric shock and food deprivation and all these sorts of absolutely painful, cruel things. This is Billy. I love him. Both his arms were broken, and he lost most of his fingers because he would catch them in the broken cage wires of this rusty little metal box he lived in. And I remember I used to sit with him, and I used to hold his hand, and I used to say, "Billy, we're going to get you out, we're going to get you out." And we did. We painstakingly documented every single thing they did that was wrong in that lab. And then we raided the place with the police, and we did get Billy out, and we did get all the animals out. That case was pivotal, because until then nobody had known there was anything at all that they could do to help animals in laboratories. It was a closed shop. But there was a host of precedents that happened because of that. We got the first US conviction of a vivisector on charges of cruelty to animals. We got the first cancellation of a federal grant for cruelty to animals. And we got the first US Supreme Court victory for animals in experiments. That started the ball rolling, and we haven't finished. During those years, I had a wonderful dog. Her name was Miss B. She came to me called Princess Buttons, which I just couldn't live with. And I renamed her Miss B after the character in that Opie, whatever that thing was.
Mayberry.
Mayberry RFD. She was a sort of cross between a German Shepherd and a couch. But when we discovered that the Department of Defense was actually shooting live dogs and live goats in these ballistic tests, Miss B started to come to the protests with us. And she wore this Target t-shirt to point out that the animals they were shooting were exactly as wonderful and lovely and everything that were the dogs and the other animals in our own homes. They deserved the same sort of respect. We also knew people who had rescued goats. So what we did is we held what we called a goat together outside the home of Caspar Weinberger. He was then the Secretary of Defense. And the press adored it. The goats had an absolutely marvelous time. They jumped on the police officers' motorbikes, they ate all the Weinberger's bushes, and they just thought this was the best day out ever. So we won that campaign too. We got the Department of Defense Wound Lab shut down. We got them to use gel instead of live animals. And Miss B was rewarded with her favorite meal, which was vegetable curry. Somebody asked me earlier about this case. We stopped the baboon head injury experiments at the University of Pennsylvania. We stopped the use of isolation chambers on baby chimpanzees at SEMA. And that is what kicked off this entire movement that has resulted finally in the end of the use of all chimpanzees in experiments. Overdone, dusted, and now we move on. Excuse me. So these cases, and we had a 3-day and 3-night sit-in at the National Institutes of Health, which scared them to death, I must tell you. And it wasn't just because we found their secret liquor cabinets and told the press about it. But those things forced the United States Congress to hold hearings and to make major amendments, not enough, but major amendments to the Federal Animal Welfare Act. And perhaps most importantly of all is that these cases fundamentally changed the way the public looked at what goes on inside laboratories, which shows us our obligation today to keep showing people so that people wake up and realize they have to do something. In the years since the cases that I've talked about, PETA has managed to shift public opinion so much that the latest poll showed that more than half of all young people polled oppose all, not just cosmetics, but oppose all animal experiments, and that is phenomenal. There are lots and lots of successes. You know, we roll up our sleeves and we get busy. Lots of things left to do. Obviously, there's a world of experiments out there. Today you've heard about some of those successes, and there are lots of others that you haven't heard about that we've done. But we're really, really glad that you're here today to hear about those things, hopefully to pass on what you've heard. And more important than anything, I want to thank you all so much for being part of our work. Someone said to me, it's easy to write a check. It may be easy to write a check, but without those checks being written, nothing would happen, because we have to pay for our investigations, for our equipment, for our science, for our travel, for everything else. So you're part of it all. If you are supporting this, it's all you. I'm going to bring up Scott Anderson, and I just wanted to say something about him. Scott came to us 34 years ago, so that's really nice. And he came to us from the Gay and Lesbian Task Force. And back when we were starting the LGBT, etc., movement, everybody was in the closet, almost without exception. And PETA was very keen on supporting people to come out of the closet, because we have always believed the Martin Luther King saying that, you know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And it meant a lot to us to be openly hiring gay people and to openly be pushing this and to be marching for gay rights and animal rights at the same time. So we were delighted to find Scott, and he's helped us enormously. And I will say on another front is that Scott is one of the finest cat rescuers I've ever known. So here's Scott.
Thank you, Ingrid. Will everyone here who wants to stop animals, please raise your hand? Stop animal experiments. Oh. I'm glad you got that right. Maybe I got it wrong. Now we're on the same page. So, yes, no experimenters then in the room, I take it? Only good souls. Well, PETA, with your support, is going to shut down all those experiments. But to do that, we need fuel. A rocket can be the best designed rocket in the world, but without enough fuel, it's not going to get off the ground. It's not going to reach its target.